Hey, coffee crew. Welcome back. Yeah, you guys almost didn't get an episode this week. I've had some serious recording technical glitches, but we power through. I'll save that story for a future Stitch Happens moment, but yeah. I want to take a quick moment. This past Sunday was my biological dad's heavenly birthday. He's kind of the reason why this show even exists. So a lot of the way that I not only view the world, but communicate came from him. I love to ask questions. He loved to answer questions. And he was always good at breaking it down in ways that I understood. This show is as much a part of his legacy as it is my current day-to-day. So I just want to say a quick happy birthday, Dad. And I hope you're enjoying the show. All right. So today's episode, we are talking about aging because after this week, I need some humor. And this is a topic that always brings it. But we're not going to get into the doom and gloom of it. Nope. We're going to laugh. Because if we don't laugh, we'll probably pull something. Or let's be honest, we're going to pull something either way, but at least laughing is a much more fun way to do it. If you're in this current aging era of life, you can, miss your love's company. And if you're not yet, if you're still enjoying your 20s, that's okay. It gives you a little foresight of what you have to look forward to. But we're going to talk about what it actually feels like when your body starts sending your brain these IOUs that you don't remember signing. We're going to talk about the stuff nobody warned you secretly you were going to enjoy, and how to keep finding joy and meaning in your life as it keeps moving. Light energy, permission to find it funny. Let's jump into it. All right, so let's talk about our physical bodies at this point. Specifically, the fact that at some point, your body stops being subtle and quiet about what it needs and what it wants. You can kind of ignore it for a while, but eventually, all those late nights, junk food, catching 2 hours of sleep and still being able to function, all the fun things, they catch up to you. And once your body hits that certain age, it starts cashing in these IOUs. And you're going, I don't remember signing this. And your body's like, I don't care that you don't remember. I'm cashing it in. It used to be you'd wake up sore because you had a rough night out having a good time, partying, whatever. Now, you wake up sore just because your pillow had opinions. And your body is going to make sure you are aware of it. Your neck, your back, your hips. That's it. That's the whole reason. Your pillow was slightly off, and now your neck is filing a formal complaint. And instead of the walk of shame, you are doing the head roll of shame. Mind the cat. And then there's the sounds. My joints are louder than my cat's. My knees loudly announce their formal complaints to anyone in the room that is willing to listen. Which, if you've, heard earlier or before, my cats can be a pain. I did not expect getting off the couch to turn into, okay, what just popped? And is it going to hurt me all day? Remember, your grandparents used to say a storm was coming because they felt it in their bones. And you thought, oh my God, they're magical. No, that was arthritis. They are just people with arthritis and a body that protests every time there's a little bit of moisture in the air. No mystical powers involved. The ultimate betrayal, though, is doing nothing, still being sore. There's times that my brain will sometimes genuinely forget that we aren't 20. Like, you don't realize you're not 20 anymore. And then my body, very quickly, not gently, and usually loudly, will remind me, no, the fuck we are not. And we start feeling every single day of my 40 years. My brain's out here making a to-do list like a muscle-bound ADHD squirrel. And my body is leaving passive-aggressive sticky notes and moving like a sloth. Also, recovery time is a real thing now. 1 glass of wine, 2-day hangover, short sleeping night, you're groggy for 4 days. 1 plate of hot wings, and suddenly you're digging through the cabinet for Tums at 2 o'clock in the morning, like a raccoon that's scavenging for leftovers in a trash can. And if you're like me, you're probably cursing your spouse out because they had them last. It's not falling apart. It's just kind of like a computer. Your body has started sending firmware updates that your brain has not caught up to yet. The updates are rude, loud, and they kind of almost make you reboot mid-process. But they're informative. Okay, so let's get into today's Stitch Happen. And this one is very much on brand for me. It happened probably 5 or 6 years ago. So just don't worry, I recovered. The beginning of December. Yes, December. I am also guilty of deciding December 1st that it's a good idea to crochet Christmas presents. And I think I'm going to make someone a blanket. Great idea. Very reasonable timeline. What could go wrong? So I'm sitting in bed working on this blanket. I got my true crime on TV. I'm binging a series. I am fully locked in for hours. I am in a jam session, just plunging along. At some point, I realize I have to pee. Now, I've been sitting cross-legged this entire time. Well, I go to get up, and I realize my entire right leg is completely asleep. And I don't mean that tingly asleep. No, I mean dead. I can't feel anything. I can't move anything. It is gone. Not home. The whole leg, hip to toe, has decided to clock out since it's decided, well, my hands were the only ones on duty. So I figure, okay, I'm going to straighten my legs out. I'll turn and I'll get my feet on the floor, stand on my good leg, and let the blood find its way back down. Because yes, that is a thing when you get older. Your veins and nerves like to play games. It's all standard procedure at this point. What I did not account for was that while I could only feel one leg, I did still in fact have two. So my center of gravity does not match with my body sensations. So I stand up, and the weight of the dead leg makes me lose my balance. So, of course, I try to put some weight on said dead leg to catch myself. That leg had one job, and it said, "No, ma'am, we are not working today. We told you we clocked out." And I go down. On the way down, my hip inside decide it would be a great time to introduce itself to my nightstand. Yeah. I'm on the floor. I am covered in bruises because I'm anemic. So if the wind blows too strong, I bruise. And my entire side looks like I tried to tie diet because it thought it was a good time to have a meet and greet with a nightstand. My hip hurts, my back hurts, my arms hurt, and I'm yelling for my husband because I don't know, I guess I thought he didn't hear the crash. I used to bust my ass because I was drunk and I fell over air. I was goofing around with my friends. Now, I bust my ass because my leg decides to clock out without putting in any notice. And my reflexes, at times, decide to go on early retirement without telling me. So that's how you can sum up aging. Same you, same floors. You're just not meeting them for fun reasons anymore. Okay, so we've acknowledged the IOUs. Now let's talk about the part that nobody warned you were actually going to secretly love. Early bedtime. I know, right? A guy I once worked with told me that he loved to go to bed early because he loved mornings. He liked getting up early. And I thought he had completely lost his mind. Because I'm like, mornings are for sleeping until you absolutely have to get up. But the surprise is, mornings are when I can drink my coffee and nobody bothers me. My kids are teenagers. They're up late. My pets are on something, because usually in the evening is when they like to run an obstacle course through the house, and the dog likes to bark at everything. But in the morning, my house is quiet. The dog's asleep, the kids are asleep, and the cats run amok a little bit, but they're not that bad. That has become my me time. I did not understand morning people until I became one. And now I fully understand the assignment. It's a ritual. It's me, my coffee, my crochet or my microphone, and best of all, silence. Oh, you do not realize how much you enjoy silence until it's not there anymore. Another one is not caring what people think. It gets better the older you get. I don't think it's anything people talk about enough. And it's generally one of the great gifts of getting older. You just care less about the right things, though. The opinions of others that used to tie yourself in knots just don't land the same way anymore. Caring what people think about your hair or your clothing looking good? Nope. You wear what you want as long as you're comfortable when it feels good. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in sweatpants and a ponytail. You also know yourself better. What you like, what you will and will not tolerate, what brings you peace versus what you thought or were told was supposed to bring you peace. That clarity is hard-earned, and it takes years. But once you have it, it is so real and freeing. You also kind of give yourself this permission that you never had at 22. I was a severe people pleaser. I am firmly an people person now. You give yourself permission to say no, to leave early, or to not even go. To choose your couch, your project, the cat and coffee, maybe some true crime, all without apologizing for any of it. And honestly, younger me was exhausting. Every little thing got under my skin. Everybody else's opinions mattered more than my own. It didn't matter whether I had energy or not. I was trying to keep up. And now, well, they can kiss my whole entire ass while I crochet, drink my coffee, yell at my dog to stop growling at the leaves, and pet the cat. You can call me an old cat lady. It is peaceful. It's kind of like being a cat and finally finding that perfect sunspot. You don't have the energy or desire to join in the chaos anymore. You just want to nap in the sun. You've arrived. Now I'm going to leave you with this. This is a little hint. So people are like, well, how do we know when we cross that threshold? Well, one sign that you have officially crossed the threshold into this era of your life, when you get excited about a new sponge. Yeah. If Opening up a brand new sponge fills you with so much joy it can make your entire day. Congratulations. You have arrived. Your knees will be announcing it to the world shortly. All right, besties, get your fresh cup. It's time for Brews News. As always, I like to date and timestamp these because I've recorded this 3 days in a row now, and every time I went to record, I had to add a little update. Let's start with Epstein. Oh, the time and date. March 19th, 2026, 6:33 a.m. All right, now we're going to get into Epstein. Pam Bondi is scheduled to testify April 14th. She tried to offer members a private briefing, just a few lawmakers at a time, instead of testifying under oath. Under oath is kind of the important part that we need. And that was not good enough for the committee, so the subpoena stood. Todd Blanche came out and said that he thinks that they handled the Epstein files great. Also scheduled to testify is Epstein's personal attorney and his bank account manager. So the inner circle testimony is actively happening. Ghislaine Maxwell is set to appear on the Oversight Committee this week via video. A bipartisan group of senators is now asking the Government Accountability Office, which is an independent congressional watchdog, to investigate the DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. And the deadline for Senator Wyden on Operation Chain Reaction has passed with no public response. There's one more development that is really worth paying attention to. So the prison guard who was on duty the night that Epstein died, Tova Noel, has been called to testify before the House Oversight Committee on March 26th. Now, the DOJ documents show that she Googled latest on Epstein in jail twice, about 40 minutes before his body was found. Her bank account flagged a series of suspicious cash deposits in the months leading up to his death, one of which includes a $5,000 deposit 10 days before he died. And according to the DOJ documents, investigators never asked her about it. Not once. She has denied any wrongdoings, and the original charges against her were dropped, but the committee has questions. And so do a lot of us. Story 2. The United States is currently in a war. Not an operation, not a mission. It's a war. Trump called it a war. Rubio called it a war. The Joint Chiefs called it a war. But when it came time for Congress to do their actual job, which, for the record, is the only body that constitutionally is authorized to declare war, then their language got very creative. Speaker Mike Johnson called it a very specific, clear mission and operations. See, words matter here. Both chambers voted down war powers resolutions. The Senate 47-53 and the House 219-212. One Republican crossed over in each chamber. U.S. service members have been killed. The first 6 days cost us $11.3 billion, according to a closed-door Pentagon briefing. But yeah, it's just an operation. So I covered that news story because that gives you context for this one, which I think is majorly important and is not being talked about enough. But I do want to start with a trigger warning. This talks about children. So if that's a hard place for you right now, that's okay. Give yourself permission to step away and come back. You know, there's a lot in the news every day, and you don't want to burn yourself out. On February 28th, a girls' elementary school in Manab in Iran was struck. 165 girls between the ages of 7 and 12 were killed. Multiple independent investigations, NPR, BBC, Bellingcat, CBC, they all identified it as a U.S. Tomahawk missile. A preliminary Pentagon assessment reached the same conclusion. Now, the school had very clearly been separated from an adjacent military complex for over 10 years, which could be verified through satellite imaging that was visible. Now, Trump initially claimed Iran did it to themselves, but it's not like tomahawks or something you can just go grab at Walmart. There are only a handful of countries that have them. Not just have them, they require specialized launching equipment, which means even if somehow another country gets their hands on them, they're a glorified paperweight if you don't have what it takes to launch them. So the Pentagon has since opened a formal investigation. UNESCO has called it a grave violation of humanitarian law. And the office that was specifically created to prevent accidental civilian casualties was dramatically scaled back by Pete Hegseth shortly before all of this started. You know, I do the news because I don't think there's always enough emphasis on the victims. And their voices matter, and their voices need amplified. Those girls deserve to go to school. They deserve to go home. Their parents deserve to not bury their children. They deserve to be more than a footnote in a news cycle that it keeps moving on too fast. I want to bring focus, as always, back to the victims. Contact your representatives, keep asking questions, and keep watching. Let's take a deep breath. Maybe get another fresh cup of coffee. It's kind of a coffee overload week. Let's get back into the good stuff. We need some humor after all that. So one of the things that shifts as you get older, if you let it, is your give a shit meter. Yep. You stop maintaining relationships and obligations out of guilt and start being more intentional about what actually gets your time and your energy. That's not being cold. That's knowing yourself, your worth, and where you find true joy. The days of stretching yourself thin, trying to keep up with the neighbors, coworkers, making yourself go broke to keep up with the newest expensive trend, those are done. We're too tired and sore for all that. So yeah, your social table gets smaller, but at the same time, people that you invite to your table are the ones that actually matter. Again, you are in your ooh people era, and it is glorious. And for those of us that do craft, your body might shift on you here too. Your hands, your eyes, your energy levels. I've talked about my grandma before, the one that grew up during the Depression. I remember at a certain point, she had to stop quilting. Her hands, they hurt. She couldn't do it anymore. It was too... So she had to switch to things that she could do in her free time. You know, it didn't take away her ability to create. It just changed her tools. Things that used to be easy might need adjusting as you get older. And you might slow down and not be able to do it as fast. But being slower doesn't mean that it's worse. And by the way, I want to preempt this. We are not food, okay? We do not have a best by date. Different doesn't mean bad. We don't grow mold, usually. You just have to adapt. Find what works now. You're allowed to keep making things on different terms than you did before. Not just that, sometimes your reason behind why you make things might change. Now you're making things for legacy, for comfort, for joy, for productivity. Not because you have something to prove. My grandma who had to quit quilting, I have 2 of her quilts. The little yo-yo circle ones I talked about before. I have 1 for each of my boys. Those are now family heirlooms. There's something that I am keeping to pass on to my children so they can pass on to the people that matter to them someday. And I want to end this with this. If you think you've missed your window, you have not. I didn't run my first race until I was 40. I started this podcast at 41. There are people out there who don't find their thing until their 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, Vera Wang did not design her first wedding dress until she was 40 years old. And Grandma Moses did not start painting until she was in her late 70s. You will arrive at what you are meant to when your mind and body are ready. Not some arbitrary deadline, magic age, or best by date. There are some things that come with wisdom, and there are certain types of wisdom that come with time and age. All right, it's time for our shuffle happens. So take a nice deep breath. As you exhale, let the news, the aches, the pains, the joint noises, let it all go on your exhale. And let's take a nice gentle moment to ground ourselves. This week's card is the 4 of Wands. So close your eyes if you want, you can. And let the scenery take you somewhere quiet and peaceful. The scene is a valley of flowers at night. Stars are shining overhead. And in the center of this beautiful valley is an old wooden cottage. It's not new, not polished. It's aged, lived in. You can tell by the way the flowers and vines have grown all over it, claiming it, wrapping themselves around every wall and window frame. It's like the earth has decided that this place was worth holding on to. The windows are all lit up from the inside, awake, active, full of life. In front of the house is a walkway. And at the start of that walkway is a small bonfire, burning warm and steady, lighting the path to the door. Coming out of the flowers attached to the house are glowing spectacles of light, alive, like something magical is woven into the walls. And that's feeding the vines and the flowers, and they are in turn sending warmth and joy right out into the world just by existing. Upright, the 4 of Wands is celebration, homecoming, the moment after the work where you get to look around and say, I built this. This is a place worth coming back to. Community, warmth, roots, things that hold and last. Reversed, this card is instability, maybe a celebration that feels hollow. It's a house that feels like a house and not a home. You are still searching for where you belong. The 4 of Wands reversed asks, where are you not letting yourself feel at home? Where are you standing outside the light instead of walking through the door? Because aging, the real gift of it is getting to finally finish the cottage and enjoy it. The one covered in vines and full of light. The one that is old and worn and absolutely still alive and shining. You are not declining. You are just settling into your cottage. The fire is still burning. The windows are still lit. All right, coffee crew. That wraps up this week's episode. So Take this with you. Aging is happening day by day, moment by moment, whether you want it to or not. Your knees are going to have opinions. Your hips going to have opinions. Your back, your neck, all of it. And usually the pillow is going to get blamed for it. Recovery time is going to be real. But so is peace. So is the clarity. And so is your table full of people who actually belong there. And I'm so very glad that you all are pulling up a chair at my table. You are not past your moment. You are in it right now, exactly as you are. I want to give a huge thank you. I checked my stats this morning and I have hit my 1,000 downloads. Yay! In a little over 3 months, a little under 4 months, since I switched host and my counter reset. See, I got to move my legs to sleep. I finally hit 1,000 in a relative short period of time. So I just want to thank you all so much. I appreciate it. You can keep helping me by telling someone, leaving a review, feed the algorithm monster so we can all laugh at our creaky joints. Share a little hard-earned wisdom for the ones whose bones aren't quite creaking yet. Don't worry, they'll get there. And as always, keep your stitches sassy, your coffee strong, and your spirit grounded.